You know, when the government shuts down, it can feel like this big, abstract political thing happening far away in DC. But what does it actually mean for millions of people, for their families? In this explainer, we're going to get real about the human cost of the 2025 shutdown. We're talking paycheck by paycheck, looking at exactly who gets hit, and crucially, when the money really starts to run out.
So the shutdown kicks off on October 1st, and boom, right away, 670,000 federal employees get the word they're furloughed. Now, what does that even mean? It means they've been labeled non-essential, and they're sent home, no job to do, and no pay for who knows how long.
At the very same time, you've got this other huge group facing a totally different kind of limbo. We're talking about 1.3 million active duty military members. They have to keep working. It's not optional. But here's the catch. Their paychecks are suddenly on the line. They're ordered to do their duty, but there's no guarantee they'll get paid for it on time.
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? This is the question that millions of families are asking themselves. This isn't some academic exercise, it's about paying the mortgage, buying groceries. It's real, and it has a deadline. So let's get into it. When does the money actually run out?
Okay, so first things first, let's break down exactly who we're talking about here. It can get a little confusing because there are two main groups of civilian employees caught in the middle of this, and the difference between them is pretty important.
All right, here's the simplest way to think about it. You've got furloughed employees. They're told, go home, stop working. Then you've got accepted employees. These are the folks considered essential. Think air traffic controllers, TSA agents, people whose jobs are critical for safety and security. They have to show up for work, but they're not getting paid. So two totally different sets of instructions, but one very painful bottom line: no paycheck.
So when you add it all up, the numbers are just huge. You've got the 670,000 furloughed workers we mentioned, then there's about 730,000 who are still on the job but not getting paid, and that's just the civilian side. You also have 1.3 million active duty troops and another 750,000 members of the National Guard and Reserves. Every single one of them is now facing this massive financial uncertainty.
So let's put that all together. We are looking at a workforce of more than 3.4 million people directly impacted. And look at this, it's pretty much an even split between civilian federal employees and the military. This just goes to show this isn't some small, isolated issue. It's a massive, nationwide problem. All right, now for the really critical part, the timeline. How does this go from a political headline to a full-blown financial crisis for families? Because we're not talking about some far-off what-if scenario. For a lot of people, the crisis is already here. This is the countdown to when things get really tough.
So let's walk through these key dates. It all starts October 1st with the shutdown. Then, on October 15th, the military gets one paycheck, kind of a temporary patch. But then the pain really starts to set in. October 24th, that's when the first completely missed paychecks start hitting for a lot of civilian employees. And then you have October 31st, a date that could literally make history, as the first time all branches of the military miss a payday because of a shutdown.
Right, so that October 15th payment to the military, it's really important to understand that it wasn't a solution. It was more like a Band-Aid. The government basically found $8 billion it could shift around to cover that single payday. It was a one-time thing, not a long-term fix. The clock was absolutely still ticking.
And you know, what makes this whole situation so shocking is that it's different from past shutdowns. Usually, even when things get messy, Congress passes a special bill to make sure the troops get paid, but not this time. That's what leads to this really stark warning, that October 31st could be the first time in American history that every single member of the military misses a paycheck because of political gridlock.
Okay, there's a really common myth about government shutdowns, that it's just a DC problem, something that only affects people inside the Beltway. But that's just not true. The reality is the impact of this thing spreads out like ripples in a pond, hitting communities all across the country.
And here's why. It's actually a pretty simple fact, but it changes how you see everything. The vast majority of the federal workforce does not live in the DC area. They're your neighbors, in every single state, in towns and cities all over America. Let's just take a look at two quick examples to see what this means. You've got the Farm Service Agency. These are the folks who help farmers. 67% of them are furloughed. Then there's OSHA, the people who keep our workplaces safe. 72% of their staff is gone. These aren't just faceless acronyms in Washington. Their work is done out in the real world.
So what does that actually look like for people? Well, it means farmers in something like 2,000 counties could be left hanging. It means safety at 8 million different work sites might not be checked. And think about this.
For the 326 communities built around military bases, they're basically local economic engines. When those paychecks stop, the shockwave hits every local shop, restaurant, and small business.
Okay, so we've talked about the human cost. Now let's talk about the raw numbers, because there is a massive economic price tag attached to all this. Let's add it all up.
Check out these numbers. If this thing drags on until December 1st, we're talking about $21 billion in pay that just disappears for civilian employees. For the active-duty military, it's another $13.6 billion. You add that together, and that's almost $35 billion just yanked out of the economy.
But, billions of dollars is hard to even wrap your head around. So let's think about it this way. For those civilian workers, that $21 billion translates to 4.5 million individual paychecks. Just not showing up. That's 4.5 million times a family goes to their bank account, and the money they were counting on just isn't there.
And for our military members, the number is even bigger. We're looking at a potential 5.5 million paychecks withheld by December 1st. And every single one of those missing paychecks represents a service member and their family trying to figure things out, all while they're still expected to do their job and defend the country.
And to bring it down to a really personal level, the average federal paycheck is about $4,700. So imagine your family is suddenly short $4,700. How do you pay the rent? How do you cover the car payment, the groceries, the daycare? That's the reality for millions of families with every single missed paycheck.
And that's really the key takeaway here. This quote just sums it up perfectly. It's not just about the individual person missing a paycheck. The damage spreads, right? It hits the local coffee shop, the car mechanic, the whole town that depends on those people and their salaries.
So that's where we're at. This isn't just a fight over budgets in D.C. anymore. It's about billions and billions of dollars in wages disappearing from main streets all across the country. And it leaves us with one last, really important question to think about. When all is said and done, who really pays the price?